Hello and welcome to another exciting journey, Lost in Brazil. If you're new here, I'm Mark, your guide through wonders of this incredible country. If you're returning, welcome back. Thank you for watching. Before we embark on this adventure, hit the subscribe button and join our community of fellow explorers. And don't forget to ring that notification bell. That way you'll be the first to know when a new adventure unfolds right here on Lost in Brazil. Today we're going to go on a little cruise through a couple of neighborhoods in Macaé and take the blue line to the shopping mall. From the shopping mall we're going to go to the beach called Lagoa. This is probably the nicest beach in Macaé and the best place to relax and sit back. From there we're going to go through the downtown area of Macaé and then to another place that is well known for its beaches. This will be a great video to see so that you can compare the differences between Brazil and the US. Sit back, relax, and feel free to ask any questions and provide comments about what you see, what you think. I enjoy answering questions, so feel free to ask. I encourage you to ask so that I can give some good feedback on the differences down here and there. In the future, I will talk about more videos, and based on feedback, I will decide on what might be some better topics to talk about, because I want to make sure that everybody understands what it's like down here. So thanks for watching, and sit back and relax. Now this area that we're going through right now, it's a little place called Airport, and the reason why it's called Airport is because it's near the airport. So it's called Airport neighborhood. And in Brazil, everything's sort of divided up into districts, because one thing they don't have in Brazil that they do have in the US are counties. So in reality, when we say like the city of Macaé, Macaé is really more of a county. And maybe some of these places might have titles of cities, but they're really not cities, because the people that are in charge of these places are called prefeitos, which is a term which is like a prefect or prefect, something like that, something we don't really have in the United States. And this might be more of a, something that occurred from the Latin part of Europe. So they don't have counties here. And as in the United States, the states are divided by counties, and each county is responsible for a region, whether there's a township or not, which gives everyone local government. But in Brazil, the local government is controlled by the prefect and the mayor. So the mayor of Macaé, which we would call him the mayor because that's sort of the way it's translated, but he's more like in charge of a region. Even outside of the city, if it's within his district, he would control that area, or the city of Macaé would control that area. So I lived in a rural area that was about 20 to 40 miles away. I don't remember, because everything's in kilometers down here. So it's about a good 40-minute drive out there. And I would say it's probably at least 30 miles away. Of course, there's a lot of curves in the road that would account for adding distance to it. And even though there was almost nothing in between, it was mostly rural farmland, and this area around here has the highest head of cattle. And we're going to pass cattle ranches and other things in the middle of town. The place is still part of the town. It's not considered a neighborhood. It's more like a village, I guess. But it's still, if you see all the documentation, the buildings, every government building that's around there out in the rural areas, it still has the logo of the city of Macaé. And most of the cities have like a shield, and a lot of them have crosses on them because this is everything's mostly Catholic down here in origin. But the majority of the people in this area are evangelicals. They sort of took over. Now the original population here was Catholic, probably mostly Portuguese. Now if you go into the rural areas, which you if you look off in the horizon, like straight ahead, you can see some mountains in the distance. It's hard to tell that they're mountains, but that's what you're seeing. And where those mountains begin, I lived on the other side of those mountains, and off in that area over there, most of the people that settled in there were Germanic. And a lot of towns out there have German names. Some areas were Portuguese and some areas were German, but most of the people there, you could tell that they were mostly Germanic. And we're still in the area called the airport. We're getting ready to transfer over into another place. Now, a lot of people use horses and buggies down here. That's one thing that's interesting. And it shows how expensive the automobile is compared to the cost of living down here. But a lot of people will get a horse and buggy and they do jobs. One thing that people do is recycle stuff. So especially plastic bottles. And I think people are able to make a living down here doing recycling. They might do other things as well, but there are a lot of people still using horse and buggies around here. Not that much. And then you see other people pushing carts. That's the other thing that you might see. And this guy, so you see people pushing carts and it could possibly be recycling, maybe doing small deliveries, things like that. Sometimes people are pushing these carts, selling things like rugs. You see a lot of rugs getting sold in these things, or homemade devices, homemade things that are, like crochet, cloth, things like that. So this region is in the state of Rio de Janeiro. Now this is like the first day of Carnival, really. Now the official day of Carnival is going to be on Tuesday, but this is Carnival 2024, and the official day is on Tuesday, which is the day that I'm going to post this video as well. So when you're watching it, if you're watching it the first day, it should be Carnival. So this is the day, and everything is kind of calm and quiet. Now there are you might see a few people that are wearing some costumes. I haven't really noticed any yet, but there are people that will dress up during the day getting ready for Carnival and things like that, but most people do it at night. And around this area, everything's pretty quiet and calm. There might be a few people sitting around bars drinking. They have a few days off. Usually companies have a few days off for this anyway. So they might have about 5 days off or something. And this is pretty much the biggest holiday in Brazil, I think, for a lot of people. And surprisingly, a lot of the people here that are visiting right now, not in this area specifically, but at the beach. And we're not going to go to the main beach where everything's at because it's going to be way too crowded there, completely packed. But the people that are there, they're actually from the city of Rio, the capital of Carnival in Brazil. And you might think, well, it seems a little bit strange, but most of the people that I know that live in Rio, they're either going to stay in their house or they're going to get away from it. The majority. Some of them stay around there, but the majority get out of town and get away as far as they can because they don't want to have anything to do with it because it's everything's crowded. You have tons of people everywhere, and it's a huge problem. So it's a little bit of this culture, because you think, oh, everybody in Rio is in the carnival, but they're really not. They want to get out of there. They want to get away. So during the holidays, a lot of people come down here and along this coastal area, because we're not on the same coast as Rio. We're part of Rio, but there's a town called Cabo Frio in that Cold Cape, and as it curves up, then it starts heading more towards the north, and the beach in Rio is more towards the south. So that part, so it's kind of heading northeast. The beach here, and it is a different beach, and this is and along this coastal area, it's full of people coming from Rio to get away from there. This is one of the main areas where people go to, because it's I don't know, I think it's more of a family atmosphere, and that's what a lot of people want to do, is get away from that craziness and get to more of a relaxed family atmosphere. Now, with that being said, there will be some wildness going on around here, and and at the beaches, like especially the beach here, is probably going to be pretty crazy, just not as crazy as Rio. And something else to think about too is that they used to have Carnival here. They used to have this place where they did like that, and Carnival is basically just a parade. I mean, it's more than that. You know, they have. But they usually have like a parade with floats and things like that. And this town used to do it, but they no longer do it. And it's something that has kind of gone away. And I don't know if it's, whatever reason it's for. Maybe it's just not a hugely popular event here. But it has kind of gone away with whatever. And so now this is the blue line. It's like I guess you call it the blue line. That's just the name of the road. This is sort of like one of the inner city highways. It's really on the outskirts of town. It's kind of like a loop in a major city, but they don't have interstates here in Brazil. Not really. If you go, they have highways. They don't really have an interstate at all, no. Because when you get on a highway and you go from one city to the other, you're not going to have a loop to go around the city. You might have something like this, and the highways might bypass the cities, but they're not really interstates, because you'll get to places where they're gonna stop. An interstate would never stop. It just keeps going. But this is not a highway. This is more of a city road. You can take a highway and it's going to go all the way to Rio, but you're going to hit some tolls and you're going to hit some red lights eventually. But there's no highway that's going to just like go right through Rio or anything like that. Not that I'm aware of. So it's sort of a different system. And it's just, it is what it is. It's just, it is what it is. So on this road, I used to fly down this road, but now they've put a lot of radars on here. We're coming up on one now. So now it doesn't really benefit to drive fast on here anymore. Of Macaé, but if you kind of notice, now city limits of Macaé, but if you kind of notice, now city limits of Macaé, but if you kind of notice, now we're going to go through a few buildings here, but we just passed an area that was full of open fields. Now those fields flood from time to time, but from time to time you see cattle around in there too. There's a lot of cattle around here. There's sparse industrial buildings. You see a lot of industrial buildings here. Well, behind the industrial buildings, are farmland. So either the farmers lease or sell the land on the edge of the highway to businesses, and that's why you're going to see things, mostly businesses on the edge of the blue line here. But if you go back behind them, you're going to be a lot of open places. Now to the left, if you go over, there's farmland, but there's also a buffer area for the airport as well. Now the airport down here is mostly a heliport because this is a petroleum town, and a large number of people here work offshore. So they take helicopters from the heliport or airport and fly that. I don't know how many times the airplanes fly, but it's not much. If any, there's one passenger plane a day going out, maybe one coming in, and I'm not sure if it's daily. It might even be weekly. It's not much. It's kind of like that, and probably for a long time they didn't have a plane flying in and out, and that might have been the doom of the city because this was sort of a boom town. And I was working in the offshore industry, and I left it about a year before it crashed, which was pretty good timing, because if I would have stayed in, it might have not been too good. And I was doing a few contracts here and there, so I was independent. And so in 2015 it crashed because of political corruption, the car wash scandal. You've probably heard about it. And so it was kind of bad. And the population of the city went from 500,000 to about 250,000 in about a year. And that's probably one reason why Carnival ended. But also, what did not help it was the airport was not functioning properly. And most of the Americans and Brits and other people, the Europeans that were coming down here, they were complaining because they would have to get a car in Rio, in the city of Rio, and a driver would drive them 3 hours to this town, and that's a long drive when you can take an airplane and reduce it tremendously. And it's not a great ride either. A lot of traffic and other things when you're trying to get out of Rio certain times. So that was one of the problems. So it caused a lot of people to shut down their companies here and move them to Rio. Now this road's a little bit long. It's usually not so long, but if you can look to the left and right. Now this is these are lowlands here, and they're they flood a lot at certain times of the year during the wet times. It's dry down here most of the time, but when it rains, it pours, and these places will flood. It rarely rains, to be honest. I'm surprised that there's vegetation, but I think the only reason why there's vegetation is because over the mountains actually block the rain from coming over, so it changes the environment. And if you go to the other side of the mountains, it rains constantly. When I lived over there, there was a lot of rain. But the rivers up in those mountains come down to this area, so there are a lot of rivers that flow down through here. So this place is kept fed by rivers, and that probably contributes to the vegetation. And you have this flooding and other things. It keeps a lot of groundwater in here. These were probably marshes when the first people came in, and I think they drained the swamps and built canals too. So there were some canals when we were at that place. Let's see, where I crossed like a little bridge. That was actually a canal where I was explaining that I had not seen anybody wearing anything that looks like Carnival. So at that point, we were crossing one of those canals that was built. And that was a pretty long canal. And that was probably how they transported their products from one place to another. and maybe drain the swamps as well. So there's a lot of lowland. Like if you go in the, so what they had, and we're going to this beach called Lagoa, but there were a lot of lagoons down here. Salt, I guess you'd say, I don't know if they were saltwater. I think they were not saltwater marshes, but there were a lot of marshes around here because the rivers would flow in, and the way the waves are on the beach, it pushes the sandbank up really high, and there's a barrier going around the area. So there are these marshes right up next to the ocean, and they're not even brackish water. I think they're very close to fresh water. I haven't, I thought about drinking from one just to see what it was like, maybe spit it out, but I decided I didn't want to mess with it. And this was in a very far away from any townships or anything. It probably would have been fairly clean, but who knows? With the bacteria and stuff around here, because we don't have winters to kill anything. And so there's so you have these areas around here that are low that have been sort of a place where water has stored. So there's an unusual situation here as far as the environment. No rain, but plenty of vegetation. And I would compare a lot of the places that are close to the beach. They're not necessarily good for farming. Too much sand. I would maybe compare them to glades. Maybe they have plenty of vegetation, but you don't really have any tall trees, and it's probably not suitable for any kind of crops that we might need. Now you can see they planted a lot of palm trees to the left, so they're trying to improve this area a little bit. And this is still the blue line. We're still heading in towards the shopping mall. Now in this area too, there's a canal. Actually, these are also low areas, and there's a canal to the left. You're probably not going to be able to see it. You might be able to make it out. You can probably see the other side of it, but to the left on the other side of the road, there's a canal over there. And maybe one day I'll get out and visit that. Now you can see it rained yesterday, so there's some water around the road, and it's really not a common thing for rain around here, but I think it's enough to keep it green. Now this is these tall buildings here. These are somewhat new, and the tall buildings are just apartment buildings. And a lot of people like to live in places like that. I wouldn't. You would think that in an area like this where there's so much open land, people would prefer to live in houses, but it's not the case. People like living in apartment. They buy apartments, and to me, some of you probably live in a large city, but the logic of buying an apartment, it doesn't. I'm talking about like one building, not the entire complex. But buying an apartment doesn't make sense to me, because if you buy an apartment, that building's not going to last forever. So even if you make it the rest of your life, your grandchildren take it over. At some point, somebody is going to lose out, because eventually they're going to have to demolish the building. It's not going to last forever. Maybe it might. I don't know. Maybe they're using Roman concrete. Not sure, but I don't think so. And most of the buildings are made out of concrete, so I think they're pretty sturdy. But I just can't see the rationale in buying an apartment, because you can't really do anything with it either. You can't plant any, you can't plant anything behind it. I mean, there's just no yard. You might have a patio and a barbecue grill spot, but that's about it. Now, they don't really have anything like Home Depot around here. You see that building to the right? That was the only thing that was resembling. So now we're, this is the mall. And the place that we just passed, as I was saying before, it was like a Home Depot place. So now we're leaving the mall and we're getting ready to head to the beach now. So probably what you've been waiting for. Anyway, so we're going to head to the beach and take a look at that. Now it's a nice day today, nice and sunny, bright. I can see that I need to clean my windshield a little bit there, but in a minute it's not going to be too bad, because the majority of the time the sun's going to be on my back. There's only a few times, short distances, where it's going to be like this, so don't get antsy about that. So see, that'll help a little bit. Now you can see the water evaporated really quickly. It's very hot on that windshield. And most cars down here, they come with tinted windshields. And I think the tint on the windshields down here would not pass most inspections in the U.S. So there are those buildings again. So you have people living in those buildings. You can also see that a lot of the houses, they're really close together. Now these are regular houses, and usually people build narrow houses. Now in front, this is sort of a little bit of a marsh area, so lowland here, and that's one of the areas around here. It's lowland, and we also pass some cattle too. I don't know if you saw that, but there's some cattle now from this direction. The cattle are to the left. And up ahead is an industrial area where most of the industrial petroleum companies are. So you can have like a huge amount of variety in a small locale. Like to the left, there are cattle farms. Behind there are residential houses, and in front there are industrial complexes. And then here's a shopping mall. Now, when I was living in the country, I was living on the edge of a little town. And one of my videos, I start actually in that town, and I'll talk about it a little bit. But when I lived there, if I looked to the north, I would see these huge, really nice mountains. And if I looked to the east, I could see, I would see like, mountains back there too, a farm field with cattle. And if I looked to the south, I would also see the same field, because it sort of curved around. And I would see that field in another mountain. And then if I looked to the west, I would see the rest of the town, but the town was on, in between. It was in a valley basically between another mountain, so there was nothing but mountains around. It was a really nice view there, excellent view. Couldn't have anything better than that. And so now we're heading back to, this is the main entrance and exit of the industrial road. And the gate, the fence up there was a fence that went around that place, kind of like a Home Depot, and now they're closed. To the left, there's a university there, so it's like the University of Rio de Janeiro or something or another. But so this is a university. Universities down here are different from the universities in the United States. So the universities down here, they don't have football teams. I don't think they have any kind of athletics, I don't think they have any athletics. I think it's just a building, and you go there to do classes. They have no kind of extracurricular activity. And a lot of the universities don't have classes like we do. I don't know if all of them are like that, but a lot, like in high school down here, when a student goes to high school, they go to a classroom and they sit in that same classroom for, I don't know, 8 hours or whatever it is that they do classes. I don't think they do a full 8 hours, because the public schools down here, this is the way they function. They have one teacher that works 12 hours because they have a shortage of teachers down here, because you're thinking public education. So you have half of the students go to school in the morning and the other half go to school in the afternoon. So a student might one year might say, okay, you have to go to school in the morning. So they have to be there at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. I'm not sure exactly. Probably, I think like 6 o'clock in the morning. Yep, I believe that's what it is. So they go to school until noon. And then maybe at 7 o'clock. So maybe they spend like 5 hours a day in school. So then, it's something I'll have to ask. I know somebody, I have a friend that's a high school student. I'll ask her. And I never really asked anybody, but so I know somebody now, so I'm going to ask her. I'm going to drill her about how the schools work down here. And so you have so you school in the morning, and those students go home at noon. So around noontime in Brazil, you see like students everywhere. They're either coming home from school or going to school. And then, so the good thing is that they have half a day to do whatever. Now, a lot of kids down here, they work. They might do jobs like deliveries and things like that. And then, you have the kids in the morning. They probably sleep late, and I don't know, who knows. But I think the kids prefer to go to school in the morning and have the afternoon off. It seems, that's sort of the opinion I got. And that's kind of the way it works down here. But they don't have basketball teams, they don't have football teams, they don't have bands. So kids go to school and they don't learn music, they don't learn anything, ballet, dancing, or anything like that. If they want to learn something that's extracurricular, they're going to have to go to a special school for that and pay for it and go through the process. The same thing with the university. They only learn academics. And I don't even think they have physical education. Of course, I think those things are, a lot of people say, oh, why do we have athletics and sports? And I think it's actually a good thing for the university, because at the very least it brings in revenue, and it gives some extra things, because there are more than one thing that makes the world go round. So you have all these different things, so people have options to choose something. Now, there are some negative things about athletics, and I know that, I understand that there's corruption in it, things like that, but I think overall it's a pretty good thing. But that's just my opinion, and maybe we should just focus on academics. But that's one. But then also the universities down here are public too, and the bad thing about it being public down here is that in order to get into a university down here, because there's only like 63 public universities in the entire country of Brazil, and they usually have the strongest focus on education there too, because they get resources from the government. But in order to get into a public university in Brazil, you have to be rich, because the only way to get into the university, you have to go through a private school and get a top-notch education, and then you have to get special training, because the people who have the money, they send their kids to get a special education in order to pass the test in order to get into the university. And the majority of people that get into the university are wealthy students. So that means the poor people in Brazil, they pay taxes so that rich kids can go to school. And that's the problem with public education, in my opinion, because if you have public education, only the rich people, because what government does is going to reduce the resources, because they're not doing it in order to make money. So they're doing it to make money, but increasing the number doesn't make more money for them. Reducing the number makes more money because they make their money from taxes. So there's no incentive to add universities here and there. There's going to be incentives to close universities. And that's the problem with public universities versus private universities. Now, you can find negative things in both areas, but the public university thing definitely does not work down here in Brazil. Maybe it doesn't. I don't think it works anywhere, because for example, if you look at Europe, one of the problems in Europe is that the taxes that they pay, I mean, they have good universities in Europe, but they have to pay high taxes to pay for these universities. So if someone gets a degree from a European university, they're going to go to a country that doesn't pay taxes for universities. And I have a friend, he's a doctor from Germany, and he went to college in Germany, got his medical degree, became a surgeon. And as soon as he graduated, as soon as he completed his university, he was writing his thesis. And I remember, he was just, living in Germany. It was normal. I was living there too. And as soon as he completed his thesis, he headed to Switzerland, where he would make 7 times more. Now we're heading into the place called Lagoa. So you'll see to the right, there's a lagoon there, which Lagoa is the Portuguese word for lagoon. And it's a really nice place. This place has an awesome sunset. This is a good place to come, sit down and watch the sunset here. And then the beach is on the other side, which is a great place to come and watch sunrise. So one of the things that makes this place good, there's only one way in and one way out. With that being said, it's easy. Of course, you can drive in and out of here anytime you want to, but it would be difficult for thieves to operate in this area, criminals, which makes it a very safe place. And I've never heard of any problems in this area. And everyone that I've seen here, they seem to be like completely comfortable and feel safe, and there are no worries. But I think this is probably the most expensive piece of real estate, or one of the most expensive pieces of real estate in the area. And so you have this situation. Now this is Carnival here, and one of the things that's interesting here is that there's no wild parties going on or anything like this. Now just about 100, 200 yards behind me, there's another beach called Cavaleiros, and that's the beach that I'm not going to today because it's completely jam-packed full of people, and there's probably not, you probably can't stretch out your arms without hitting somebody at any place in an area because it's so full. But this is really nice. Now the water level is higher than I've seen it before, but it is nice here. There's a hotel here. It'd really be a nice place to stay. Might have to consider it, but some nice restaurants here. These are apartments up above, so you can imagine they have a nice view. They have a good sunset every night. The sun sets into the mountains. Can't really see it from here. I have another video that I did of the water out there. It's a really nice view. And so we're kind of coming around here. Eventually, straight up ahead is part of the beach. Now it's I don't know if you can really see it or not, but there's like a sandbank there over the water. On the other side of that sandbank is the ocean. but you can see like somehow that the waves force that up. Now up ahead, there's places where people go to the beach. It's a really nice place to go to the beach. Really beautiful here. But there's like a big bank in front of all the lagoons. The lagoons do not flow out into the ocean. They're just sort of blocked there. And even if they're completely full, sometimes if it rains a lot, what will happen is they'll overfill, and then the water will just wash it away, and then all the water will flow out. They don't like to allow that to happen. It lowers the water level too much. But I guess it doesn't hurt for it to happen, once in a while. But it does happen from time to time if it overflows. I don't know if they do it intentionally, but once the water starts flowing out, it's going to erode all that sand, and it's going to lower that water level, because water level is always a little bit higher than the ocean. Now this right here is a great place to walk. Really, really good area here. But these are also apartments up here. I think there's only like 2 hotels in this place. One of them's in front of the lagoon. There's another one down there that's near the beach at the very end of this. So one of the good things about this area, and I think why it's more peaceful, because there are very few commercial establishments here. So most people come here to just relax, not to go to restaurants, not to do things. The other beach, it's going to be cram-packed full of people, because people are going there to go to the restaurants, to do other things. So they have some good restaurants there, especially steakhouses. Really everything that you could think of, they have there. Mostly the thing that when I go to the beach, the main restaurant that I go to is a steakhouse. They have some really good steak. The main steak that I think the most popular steak in Brazil is called picanha, and we don't have a steak like that in the U.S. I don't know how I could even translate it, but when I was in the U.S., I was hanging around with some Brazilians to pick up on Portuguese, and the way they would get picanha is they went to a Mexican butcher and showed him how to do it, and then he would cut the picanha for them from that point on. So he was their picanha guy. So here are like more houses here, nothing. So it's about it, but good place around here. Now this is heading back out of the area again, and we're getting back on the main road. Now I'm not sure if this one has a name. Like this might be something like the Green Line or something like that. I'm not sure. But this road, if you go to the opposite direction that I'm heading right now, you're going to head down the coast and go all the way to Cabo Frio. So south from here is where all the main tourist areas are, and diving places, things like that. They have some bays that have like crystal clear water. People like to go diving there. Other places for boating. It's like one of the best places in the world to go to, I think, for diving and other things. But there are some places that are frequented by international people. One of the places down there, it's a peninsula, and most of the people on there are from Argentina for some reason. I know some guy from Argentina went there to vacation, but most of the people there are from Argentina. I'm not sure what happened, how it ended up being like that, but it is. And so now we're heading past the Caballero Beach, which is to the right. And to the left are hotels. You can see they're kind of up on a mountain, sort of. I think some of those are apartments. I think the one straight up ahead there, I think that is the Sheraton, or it used to be the Sheraton. And so to the left, most of the buildings there's some apartments and maybe a few houses and things like that. But the majority of places, unlike the place we just left, the majority of places over here are commercial. And almost everything is commercial. There are apartments there, but I don't know. I wouldn't want to live there because it would just be too loud. I almost got a place around there, but I'm kind of glad I didn't, because it would just be overbearing, the music and everything else. So you see the sun setting here, and you see a lot of people, a lot of movement, and this is a Saturday, and it's usually not like this on a Saturday. So these are people heading into the into some place to either get away or to go to places. I think a lot of these people are getting away because they're heading away from the main tourist areas. There might be some places up, or they're getting away or heading to another beach or heading to the mountains or something like that. But or they could be heading to Carnival, heading to the beach or something like that. Because to get to, I don't know, it's hard to say, but there would not be this amount of traffic on a Saturday. Usually on a Saturday, this road is pretty calm. And that thing to the left is sort of a police station. You'll see those places, but I think there's usually about like 2 cops sitting in there, and they're just there to respond to anything. And I think a lot of the places that they're in, they have to make them bulletproof. And I've never heard of anything really happening around here too. It does happen. It's probably policy. Like this place, to be honest, it's pretty safe. Maybe it's because I don't watch television. You think that I do since I'm making a video, but I like making videos, but I don't like watching television that much. I don't like watching like regular television and news. And I kind of think if I watch the news, just because they say things are terrible, it doesn't necessarily mean that it applies to me. Yeah, it might be a good idea to watch the news. I mean, I read it. I look at news, but I just don't like watching the sensationalism of network news. And so therefore, my perspective of if there's a lot of violence around here, I could be wrong, but I have not experienced anything close to it. Most people seem to be at ease around here. And of course, those might be the type of people that get targeted too, but I haven't seen anybody get robbed. I haven't heard of anybody saying, hey, I got robbed at Caballeros or something like that. Now, I hear a lot of stories of people getting robbed in Copacabana in the city of Rio. And you hear about police corruption, things like that. Now, I'm not saying there's none around here, but I think the city does a pretty good job of keeping things in fairly good order down here. I mean, they could do a better job on the roads and stuff, but there have been a lot of improvements since I've arrived here. It used to be really bad, much worse. So I think that they're getting a little bit better here. And so, still to the left is it's that, to the right is the beach area. To the left, it's mostly residential areas, and it's sort of a low area too. Like if you go to the left, it's going to drop down pretty low. So I imagine that it probably used to be a lagoon as well. They drained it, and they probably do some pumping and other things to keep the water out, because it's really low. If you go over there, it seems, to be honest, it seems like it's much lower than the water level on the beach. I have some friends that live there, and I would go around there. So I don't know how they keep that place. I know it does flood from time to time, but maybe they're able to have these types of places because of the lack of rain around here. I have no idea, but it isn't sort of in a depression type area. And these drivers down here just cut in, no blinkers. That's the way it happens a lot down here. I don't know. I guess if you live, probably experience the same thing if you live in Los Angeles or somewhere like that. And so now we're heading into this other part right here. We're getting away from the beach area. Now to the left is Petrobras. It's like there's a Petrobras building to the right, but if you go over to the left near the beach, like there's a lot of residential areas here, a few commercial areas on this road, but if you go behind those commercial areas, there are a lot of residential areas here, and then behind those residential areas is like one of the main places of Petrobras. It's almost like a military base. You have to go through a gate to get in there. And once you get in there, it's kind of like being on a military base, to be honest. There's some buildings in there. I've been down there about 20 times to do contracts. And that's about what it is. But this area right here, this used to be a very vibrant commercial area. And my theory is the reason why it died is because the population of Brazil has grown more to using automobiles. So you have more and more people using automobiles now. And the type of commerce that they have here would probably not target the people without automobiles. So a lot of these places are closing. And there's no parking here. So that's, what are you going to do? You go to a place and you can't park. You got to walk 5 or 6 blocks to go shopping somewhere, and you have no idea if they have what you want to buy. So a lot of other places have taken over the market. There's nothing, no parking garages or nothing, and I think they just didn't see it. It's like I don't know. It's just sort of blindness to the market and not understanding the market and trying to do things the old way and not adapting to new things. So a lot of businesses too are in dire strait. I think a lot of it, there are a lot of downtown businesses. We're heading into the downtown area too, and those places are looking, those shop operators are looking pretty depressed, looking pretty empty, and I think they're hanging on. And I believe that most of them don't really understand what's going on. I've tried to talk to a few people, say, hey, this is what you need to do, and showing ideas, but nobody wants to start doing virtual market, get into the virtual markets, because they have no concept of it. This is the way we've been doing it, and it's just difficult to change. So this meteor's coming in, these dinosaurs are going to go completely out of business sooner or later, because a lot of products you can't find them around here, and I would say 50% of what I buy is online. It's just not, it's something that happens. People have to wake up, and if they don't, it's just, oh well, you're going to be SOL. Now, Now that I think that's what happened, and I think that's what's going to happen in this town. Now this town right here, this area that we're going through right now, this is I would say maybe 20, 30 years ago, there was almost nothing here. So this went from like, maybe a few thousand people, 3,000 or 4,000 people to 500,000 people in a matter of a few years. And that's because of the discovery of petroleum nearby. So the majority of people that were living in here, they may have had like farms, small shops and things like that. They went from being, maybe dirt poor to becoming, very wealthy and with commerces of, residual income caused by the petroleum industry. Now, what we're experiencing here, there's been a decrease because of political corruption and a lot of companies left. And also too, you have people that are buying online, people that are using cars and they're going shopping in other towns or outside of the area. Because even if you go shopping in here, the parking's kind of difficult and it's not that great. And some of the things are okay around here, but I mean, to be honest, I only come down here when I have to. And it's okay, but I think the online market's gonna kill it because, they're a generation behind. Well, they're half a generation behind from the United States. I always kind of look at what's happening down here. It seems like it's, you see people doing online classes. They're about 10 years behind the United States. So I think that, we're like half a generation ahead of people that started doing things online. So after, I would say in about 10 years, they're going to be in the same place as the United States, maybe a little bit further because it's happening faster here. And like even in the U.S., online, you need to get your, online ideas together and start focusing on, how you're going to market yourself online. If you have a small business, try to use some sort of app to sell your products, and you're going to increase your market. You can still sell in your store, but at some point you're going to be competing against people that do not have stores. Well, having commercial real estate is expensive. It's expensive to maintain because it's there for the public eye. But if you're renting it, it's also going to be expensive. Now that price is going to go down once the stores start closing down. But it's still going to be more expensive than if you have some shack in a low-cost area or even a warehouse where you have the products and you're able to organize it much better and stick it in a box and ship it to somebody, or even deliver it locally. Because you have to think about, one thing that I was mentioning to a guy, he was asking me about that and wanted some advice. I told him the cost of operating a store, commercial real estate, is if you cut that part out, then you can use that money to pay for the delivery cost. And that's you shift the real estate cost to the delivery cost, and that's how you make it. But see, if you're in that situation, suddenly people are no longer coming to brick and mortar stores and everything's virtual, and you're still trying to operate a brick and mortar store, well, you're going to pay for that cost, and you compete against a person that's only paying for delivery costs. So you have to do both. So that's one of the reasons why you need to start focusing on trying to have some sort of a shift over to this new market. I mean, it's just my advice. Now, there's probably some things that are never going to change, and who knows, you might even get a backlash to that, because I like to go to, I like to go places and buy things. I like to get out. It's a reason to get out and go somewhere. Like today, going to the mall, I went there to do some shopping. Like certain things, I don't like to buy online. Like I need to buy a extra drive for my computer, and I actually prefer to go somewhere and buy that in person rather than buying it online. I just kind of feel better about it. But I just bought a camera and I bought it online, mainly because I cannot find it around here. If I could find it around here, yeah, I'd probably buy it here locally. Now this place right here, this is to the right, there's also a beach down here, and this is not a very popular beach. Up ahead, they just built a new place for a beach, and it's kind of popular. This area is getting better and better, but to the left and right is sort of a favela. In this area, not every once in a while, but I think one time they stacked some tires in this area and set them on fire. But I think it was just one time. And up ahead a little bit, there's I think to the right here, actually, to the right of where we're at, somebody drove in here in a government vehicle, and they had the windows up, and it freaked out some drug dealers down there, and they shot up the car, and some official got his finger shot off. I think his pinky shot off or something. And that was the worst thing that happened. But I would rather have my pinky. I'm sure he's not happy about it. He's going to have to, he can't drink his tea with his pinky out anymore. Because, I'm sure he was one of the, people in that class. Who knows? No, just joking. So, but it's a bad thing. No one deserves that. And and I have a few friends that are politicians. They're not all bad people. And I mean, it's just the life that they're dealing with. It's a difficult situation to be in because a lot of sometimes you have to compromise your ethics to be in certain positions sometimes. So I can imagine it's probably a difficult scenario to be in. So I'm not going to try to judge anybody based on their profession. The ones that I know, they're nice guys, and at least they're nice to me. So this is going into another area. It's kind of part of the same area. This place is called, I think it's called Bajeto, and to the left and right, there are a few like industrial, commercial places here. This is where you have like a tire shop over here to the left. There's a few good shops in here. It looks kind of run down to some degree, but I have a mechanic that works on my car. He's over here to the right, and he has about like 4 or 5 guys working on him, and always full of cars in the front. And he does the reason why I hired him is because the dealership recommended him, and if a dealership uses him, then he's probably pretty good. And he's always does a great job on my work. One time I left money in my console and got back there, about $50 left in the console, got back, and it was still there. He said, "Oh, you left money in the console." I was like, "Oh, yeah." I remembered it like after I left the car. I said, "Well, I'm not going to go there and pick it up. I guess I'll see how honest he was. It wasn't worth going there for $50. I probably would have paid Uber $20 to get there. So just so anyway, that's it. Now up here to the right, they just built a new beach. Now this place looks like they're getting ready for Carnival right here. So everything's sort of packed full, and you can see some of the booths around here in the parking lot. So I was wondering, like, where's everybody going to park? Because this is where I usually park my car if I come to this beach. So it's a pretty nice setup they have here. It's brand new, really nice. You can't see it because of the booths here, But they've got something going on here. They have like a big one there, so they probably have a music show going on here too. So it looks like they set it up. I guess this bus probably brought some people here, or no, it's probably picking somebody up. It's heading to another town, and it looks like they parked to the left here, and so all to the left. It's mostly the commercials right off the road, right off the main road is mostly commercial. But if you go back behind there, there's neighborhoods, and that neighborhood back there is mostly the airport neighborhood. Kind of, we're about to finish our trek here, but it's the airport neighborhood that's around in that area. Now to the right, it's the beach. You sort of have this woodland area and these high mounds that are caused by the hard waves coming here. And then if you go back to the left, you see everything sort of slopes down. So to me, it's just sort of I imagine that this all used to be sort of a lagoon in the past. But as we end it here, I just wanted to thank everybody that did watch it. I hope you enjoyed it, and you have a great day. If you're watching it I'm going to post this sort of in the afternoon, so have a great evening or anything. So take care, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed exploring Brazil with me, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to Lost in Brazil for more exciting content, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Share your thoughts and questions or suggestions in the comments below. I love hearing from you. And until next time, obrigado and safe travels.